Hello friends, hello everyone, welcome to 2024. Wow, these have been intense days, these first 7 days of this new year, which started with a X5 flare, the biggest one since 2017, and it's really just set the pace. Absolutely, something which happens right at the beginning of a year is always having a deep impact. It is just naturally that way because everybody is expecting new beginnings, and that is what is cementing these energies, making them very important as a general footprint of what's to come. And that was an intense flare, and then I showed you the whole repercussions astrologically out of that. If you haven't watched it, go back. It's really worth it. I'm laying out the whole story into April, more or less, in a bigger way. So yes, we are approaching the solar maximum. It is coming. Yes, we are close. You see, this is since 2019. Steadily, the sunspots have been increasing in numbers. And here you see the print of overlay of all the sunspots in 1 year. You see it's a big increase, and this was the forecast, the blue line here, and you see we are above the forecast. We had a really high peak here already in around June, July 2023. And we're relatively low right now in solar activity. Yes, there's still quite many sunspots, but there hasn't been many flaring activities. This can change dramatically as soon as the sun gets more into active mode again, which, as we know, started on New Year's Day. So let me start with this one here, the Mayan calendar. We are at a very interesting place in this 260-day template of time, which is galactic time according to the Mayans. Jose Arguelles, the one person who really revived the whole knowing of the Mayan calendar. He did lots of research on it. Definitely this came very timely with all the excavations and the understanding of that Mayan culture in general. So this 260-day rhythm is really showing the energy of every day in a very practical approach, you could say. So today is 1 Kawak. This is January the 7th, 2024. 1 Kawak, the thunder being. This is storm. This is the intense interaction of opposite forces. A great day to meet people, to challenge what they were at, and bring in new energies. And I guess this is definitely happening today, and this is just the start of a 13-day cycle with that tenor at the core, at the base. This is the energy which will rule all the way into the 19th of January, which will be this day then, 13th June, and then on the 20th of January we get into a new cycle which takes us all the way, let me just give you the dates here quickly, into February the 1st, and then we are getting into the intense center period of the calendar from February the 2nd on. We are here on 1 Chikchan, the celestial snake, very much in resonance definitely to the Chinese New Year coming up on the 10th, which is actually happening within these 13 days of the celestial snake. So here you get more snake energy even into this year. Dragon energy, really, snake and dragon, they are kind of interchangeable, often used in the same way from what they really mean. It's about survival instinct. It's about really I would say it's almost a prehistoric creature with original powers which have long got lost as we were moving away from the instinctual, directly in touch with reality in the moment, more into the mental and emotional levels, as evolution has gone into where we are today in the human species, which both mental and emotional are not really in the moment. They always are either processing or projecting. So that's why the snake dragon energy is way more grounded in the now, in the moment. Picking up intuition is big here. So on February the 2nd, yes, we get into this center area, and all through let me give you the exact dates here. All through February 18th to March the 9th, we are in the central column, which is always the most intense time of the year. Interesting, that kind of agreed with the solar high point here, which we had. This was the last time we were in this section of the calendar. Could be a repeat, that we get an intense solar spell in that time around February 18, March 9th, if you want to note it down. And then we get here into this again, 10 days, portal days, galactic activation portals, which always have a superior energy overlaid to it, which will be from the 13th. From the 13th to the 25th of March, we will be in this segment, and the portals will be from the 14th into the 23rd. So also a spring equinox naturally will be here on one of these portal days. Interesting. So there's lots of intensity here coming in from the Mayan calendar over these next few months into April the 8th, April the 10th. This is the next really big intersection where energies shift sharply in a new direction. Until then, we're building, and gosh, boy, has these 7 days been already revealing in so many ways. 2024 is proving to hold up to its expectations. Just think of all the things around Epstein which have been revealed, all these court papers, and all these names now coming into the forefront of people's attention. It's no more conspiracy, it's no more whatever you call that, Pizzagate or such, which most people think it was debunked, never happened really. It was just played into the ground by concerted efforts, you know of whom. Anyway, there's lots of fear around that whole topic in the ruling chambers, and that is just about getting really to a point where a big breakthrough is occurring. And the lunar nodes are super important in mundane astrology, in the understanding of what a particular time's signature is. The lunar nodes always go backwards. This is the north node, this is the south node. They move in a pair. That is the nodes is where the moon is rising out of the sun earth plane. Just think, if you extend a line from the earth to the sun, where it apparently moves through the sky, we know it's the other way around, but that's our perception. Astrology bases on perception. So now we have this plane, and the moon has a little bit of angled orbit around the Earth, and this orbit travels in 18 years once around the zodiac. That means these 2 points where the moon peaks upwards through that Sun-Earth plane, the ecliptic, that is the north node. The place where the moon is descending again is the south node. So these 2 points actually in a retrograde motion go through the zodiac in 18 years. That's also a very important figure in terms of solar eclipses every 18 years, and that is again related to the nodes. And eclipses occur at the nodes. So you see the nodes have a super central appearance in astrology. And the north node, for those of you who are new, is the direction we are moving into, which is a territory we are just about to redefine, if you want, and that has been Aries for the past months and will be still so into fall of this year. So Aries is the sign of taking action, of decisive forward motion, but also of the understanding that I'm the one in power, period. I am the architect of my life. I am owning my past. I'm owning everything I am, literally. And naturally, the past has formed me. If I'm giving power away, if I say, well, in the victim mode, many people still are, well, I'm that way because of this and that and that and this, and that is really giving your power away. If you take it back, if you say, well, maybe before I even was born, I made some plans and decisions that I would have to encounter these lessons and these life experiences to mold me into what I am today, and this will be the baseline of where I'm going to. And if you really have a close look, life is always in your favor. Yes, it sometimes doesn't appear that way right away in the moment when things are happening, but later on, if you look back into anything which was difficult, you will see eventually this has been the seed for a breakthrough, for a new understanding, a greater view, even if it's more humility. There's always something which comes out of it. So yes, existence basically is helping us, positive, wanting to us to expand. So this is the energy of the north node, of where we are going to into more self-responsibility and power, making the right decision. And the south node here in Libra, this is what we have in abundance, in a way, what we are collectively in these 18 months drawing energy from. And Libra naturally is partnership, shared experiences. So this is kind of the bedrock where we are growing from. Also, Libra is the sign of integration and of collective identity, bringing us together as a whole planet. A beautiful time for real big breakthroughs. This nodal axis is. Now, if we overlay the 64 hexagrams as the human design system is teaching us, then this is a great, a powerful moment tomorrow, early morning in Greenwich, 2:33, when the nodes backwards cross the 2045 mark. And then all the way into April, or no, actually May, this hexagram 51 and 57 on the other side will be the ones we are experiencing reality through. Now 51 is a powerful one, and it actually really matches today's energy. It's kind of attuning us today. This is shock and thunder, thunder below and thunder above. This is a energy which shakes everything to its core, and interestingly enough, that's the hexagram where also Chiron expresses itself through this most of this year. Chiron, naturally the one which is super important, as I showed you in several of my recordings, how strategically placed that centaur is, which is about that experience of having to come to terms with something difficult, which then is initiating the healing process. I guess that's going on pretty much in everybody's life. This is a super stressful time. Naturally, yes, it is, and it is worth going through this time. If we have a bit of a perspective, we will see it's really worth, and I am the one who wants to give you this perspective, to take you a little bit out of this kind of not knowing where it's going. That's what astrology is really good about. Anyway, so this chart is setting the stage for these next pretty much 4 months actually into May. This is yes, full 4 months this will be. And then on May 11, the node moves on into hexagram 21, which is another really intense one, which is biting through. That's the energy of, with your teeth, biting through something tough and difficult. So expect all the way into summer that will be going on. Where did I write it down? I thought I made a note here how long these nodes are in this position. Let me quickly look at that, then you know. This is the most intense part of the year, this first part. The second part will be way easier flowing along, so it will be till 9 degrees and 30 minutes will be crossed by the nodal axis in retro motion, which is July 19th. So all the way from now into July 19th, this is the intense period. We are really, first of all, breaking everything loose, the thunder really shaking things up, and then the cutting through, the taking the decisive action, which then starts somewhere around May. Sure, it's an overlap, but that's kind of the bigger picture here with the nodes. Now, so let's look at this chart now. Just before we go any deeper, what I want to show you is, this is January 8th, and this is when the lunar nodes change. This is the Black Moon entering 64, hexagram 64, and the exact same configuration you see. We will look at this chart more closely too, and then one more a week later on the 20th of January, when the Sun and Pluto have their exact conjunction. Again, you see the same configuration. So these three events are interlocking with each other. This Sun-Pluto conjunction is in most powerful. You see it's at 29:59 in the very last minute of the sign Capricorn. This is super powerful. Actually, just a day later, Pluto moves into Aquarius, and another day later also heliocentric Pluto enters Aquarius. This is a very powerful few days then around the 20th. And we're building up to that. Naturally, Pluto is all about transformation and redesign and transfiguration, breaking everything open. It is really the moment now where the final harvest is taken from what has been ignited in 2008 when Pluto first entered Capricorn. So these 15 years are coming to a conclusion. That's what it really means. Yes, Pluto will go back once more for a few weeks in fall 2024 back into Capricorn, having its last final dip. But this is the main frequency shift when heliocentric Pluto changes, and as I said, this happens within a couple days here. Now, this chart is super powerful, as you see the moon in a perfect trine, which is harmonious, and then there is Setna here. The moon conjuncts, actually the moon also is void, of course, which means it's in that state of wild card. You don't know what's coming out of it, totally unpredictable, running into the void. That's the idea, running into that fog screen, and then once it enters a new sign, then it again has a clear destination as it heads towards the next Ptolemaic aspect, which is the moon. In that sense, then after it enters Gemini, its first angle, exactly, let me see quickly as I'm speaking of it, will be with Saturn. Yeah, will be the Saturn square then, so it heads into the Saturn square. But before that, before it enters the new sign, it is in that state of not knowing really what's to come out of it. And naturally, this combination of energies, Pluto and Setna being in that 120-degree angle, that is a trademark of our present time, as I said many times. On one hand, it is the transformation, the breakthrough, the bringing everything to the finish line in terms of change and shift from inside out. On the other side, it is that a revelation of all the deep and dark and which has been hidden for so long, and this is actually in a harmonious relationship, which is beautiful. That means it's coming out in a very gentle way, as much as you can say gentle in this context. It's very well dosed, one would say, always to keep the balance and the bigger picture. But let's go back here for a minute to tomorrow's lunar node ingress, and let's look a bit closer at this chart. So what stands out again? And the moon is always the main one to look at all these ingress and mundane charts, because the moon is really the lens we are experiencing reality through. It's our Earth's satellite. It moves always forward for that. One of the few, the sun is the other one, which always moves forward, because there it's a direct dual relationship, versus with all the others it's always a triangulation. It's based on two coordinates. You measure the third one if you want. Anyway, the long and short, the moon is in a conjunction with Venus tomorrow and in Sagittarius. This is very exciting. It's something which gives you goosebumps in a way. Venus and the moon basically are something beautiful, something lovely, but not always, particularly so as the black moon is throwing a 90-degree aspect at it. So Venus also naturally has to do with children and with all dark stuff. When there's a square from the Black Moon, which is about shadow themes, so that whole unraveling of the Epstein files is totally in that big square. The 6th house of healing, naturally. Then we have Mercury and Mars here flanking the 7th house cusp. This will initiate lots of discussion and further revelations. Interesting also that 24th degree of Aquarius, which is at the helm of the chart, the direction we are moving into, in a way, in that sense of integration, of coming to a singular one understanding, and that is the 24th degree of Gemini. A man, having overcome his passions, teaches deep wisdom in terms of the experience he had. This is again, for those of you who are new, from Dane Rudyard's interpretations of the Sabian symbols, which was the insight of that medium Elsie Wheeler into each degree, what was given to her in her in-depth tuning into these frequencies. And actually it's really an interesting concept to start with. And the comment here Rudyard makes on this degree: whoever has managed a difficult performance contributes to the collective wisdom of his community and of mankind. Every achievement is to be passed on to those who may be inspired by it to greater and more adequate efforts. So I guess this resonates a lot. We all have had these groundbreaking experiences in the last few years, and now we're pulling out the essence and distilling it, bring it to mental clarity. Interesting is that this moment when the nodes will be ingressing into these two hexagrams. This is the heliocentric picture here in this small picture, and you see there's Mercury at 2858 heliocentrically. And again, the heliocentric always gives the background energy where things really are fed from. That is the energy the solar photons and electrons are carrying in their quantum packages, feeding us. And you know, we are all living on solar energy. If the sun would be extinct 8 minutes later, it would be totally dark, and within hours it would be every bit of life would disappear. So that's how directly we are connected, an extension of the solar frequencies. That's why the heliocentric always is the background energy, what we are drawing from the pre-manifest, if you want. So this opposition here to Neptune, coming out of this opposition, is meaning also coming out of the confusion, really. And this is hexagram 6, which is conflict. It comes out of and gets into hexagram 46, which is rising upward. This is the hexagram which crosses over the fall equinox line into Libra. So it is a breakthrough energy there too. And yes, most of all, I want to say, you see that's a perfect square to the 7th and the 1st and the 7th house cusp here in this collective global chart. So yes, Mercury is super important. Mercury, the planet of thought, of communication, of bring it to a place of being able to spread it out and look at it in perspective to what has been and what will be. In that sense, Mercury is also the one which is very much related to time. So it's Mercury actually is the planet of humanness. That is what really is the big difference of us versus the animal and the plant kingdom, which is they live in the moment. Period. If you watch your dog, he's always right in the moment. Yes, sometimes dogs think too. That's kind of the thing about dogs. They're kind of evolutionary. They're closing this gap between the plant and the human, the animal and the human species. But most of all, animals are totally in the moment, versus we are always venturing out into all directions. That is a mercurial thing too. But Mercury overall is the planet of mental understanding and analysis, and in that sense also coming to the place where we are able to use that capacity and not being used by it. That is one of the big things about reflection, meditation. That is the reason we want to bring the mind to that place where it's no more governing us, constantly chitting and chatting, but being quiet, and then when we want to use it, it is there at hand. It is our servant. So let's look at this second chart I have here lined up for you. Again, these are the three events which are really locking into with each other. The moon in hexagram 64. I already spoke about that a bit in my last recording. 64 is before the beginning. It's the state of chaos, disorder. It's that place where everything is kind of in its raw form. And this is the black moon here, 11/22/30. So this will be a time of confusion in many ways when the black moon ventures here through these few degrees from 11/22/30 to 17 degrees. That is the cutoff points. Again, for those new here, on my website, The Cosmos Within, you find the link here in the description underneath. As always, all the relevant links to my recordings always are underneath in the description. So there you can find the exact breakdown of degrees, and you can also see in which hexagrams your planets are. This gives you an expanded understanding. That is an enormous addition, a wonderful addition to astrology, to have these 64 oracles. So this is hexagram 64, which rules this area. A time of primordial chaos, you could call it. Everything needs to be sorted out. This lasts into April, I guess the 8th or something, I figured out. Again, very close to the time when the eclipse happens. Let me just quickly confirm this. No, it's not even going that far. You see, it's already in March, probably it is changing. So anyway, it's just for the next roughly, I would say, well, 1 degree in about 9 days. It's about 45 days, about, I would say, probably till the end of March, so something like that. Yeah, I would have to look it up, but this is the kind of energy we are dealing with starting January the 13th. And then, yes, then the Sun and Pluto are meeting on the 20th. This chart we already spoke about. Now I want to lead you here to the next one. Why I bring up this chart, Venus station on the 23rd of July. You see, that's what I want to refer to, 2959. That's exactly half of a zodiac earlier. If we go back, 2959, January the 20th. And here is the Sun, 2959 in Cancer. That was when Venus turned retrograde, a very, very important moment when a planet, particularly an inner planet, is changing direction. This is a marker in time, and this was a super powerful chart. See the Sun-Pluto opposition here. Then we have the Mercury Black Moon conjunction opposing Hygeia, which very obvious hints at the revelations which since have been getting bigger and bigger about what has been happening in 2021, mainly 2022, with all the excess deaths and such. And I mean, you know what I'm talking about. This is health related, yes, health and well-being. That is what Hygeia is about. Uranus is T-squaring this axis. Oh yes, it has been really rumbling and shaking and shattering. Many people since have been waking up to the big scam that was pulled on us. This is the basic energy. Why Venus? Well, Venus again is about, in that sense, the social climate of experiencing harmony, beauty, and relationships are ruled by Venus. Venus is about love, naturally, about all the pleasures on the more individual sides, but also about all the things which bond us together as a society. Venus is super important. It is kind of that appreciation of what is beautiful. Just think of Venus, evening star or morning star. She is just beautifully glaring, shiny, bright, and as always, looking at the factual reality of something is giving away already a lot of its meaning. In terms of Venus, this is definitely true. So that was a super important moment, and you also see the Moon was in opposition to Neptune. Coming out of this opposition, so means again coming out of the confusion, coming out of the deception in T-square to the ascendant descendant. 27 degrees in a few minutes is the galactic center. So the galactic center was at the 7th house cusp in this chart, making it further more important, powerful. This was a super important moment, and it happened on the 23rd, as so many important alignments in the year 2023 happened on the 23rd, which is always kind of giving a hint. Yes, whatever happens on the 23rd was super important in 2023, and so is the case in 2024. It will be the number 24 naturally, which is standing out, and I already saw it a few times when I looked ahead. Some really important shifts will happen on 24th. Okay, look at this 21 we have here at the target point, so to say, of this chart, and look where the moon is here. 2149. So there's lots of that going on. That is really what makes astrology so super beautiful, I would say. It really shows that there's a deep harmony, and when we look into it, we might recognize patterns and such amazing synchronicities. There's many hiding. I'm just showing you what jumps out, what I can see immediately. But let's go back here to this chart now. That was when Venus turned retrograde. From here on, Venus then, as seen from Earth, was moving backwards while the Sun was moving forward. And then eventually Venus turned direct on the 4th of September, started moving forward again, and came back to this degree on October the 7th. This is exact when it's coming out of the shadow period. That is that phase it has been moving forward and backward from. Why do I show you this chart? Well, for a couple of reasons. Because again, this links into that same frequency. Always when a planet comes back to the same degree, this doubles up. This makes it even stronger. Most of all, I want to point out this guy here, OR, 2007 OR. Now this has since been renamed as Gong Gong. That's Gong Gong is a Chinese dragon. A dragon again. Be careful. We are dealing with dragon energy. And I mentioned that already in my last recording. That was super charged up that degree where Gong Gong is by this X5 solar flare, which set the basic frequency of what's unfolding. That dragon energy, okay, we will get more into that in my next recording, but just shortly, the water dragon, the story goes that he was in competition with the fire dragon, and he lost, and because he was so disappointed, mad, that he rammed his head into the mountains, and for that rivers reversed their flow. Actually, the whole earth got tilted. So anyway, this is not to be taken too literal. It is mainly a mental thing, coming to a realization of something which has gone wrong, which has been seen in the wrong way. I like what Martin Artley says about it. Just quickly want to read you this. Gong Gong, like Pluto, has the attributes of a serpent. Interesting that he also adds Pluto to this category. Something to think about. Gong Gong brings healing, but it's healing in the mental realm. Yes, ramming one's head into something is like banging one's head. Why didn't I see this? It's kind of, that's the energy here. Science and technology progress through concentrated effort, trial and error, resulting in frustration when a result does not seem within reach, as in beating one's head against the wall, and then a sudden flood of insight once the breakthrough comes. Most interesting is that, first of all, having been discovered in 2007, Gong Gong had just entered Pisces. The Pisces, the sign of intuition, you could say, of having a direct insight into things. And it so happens that Pisces also is the sign where Gong Gong cuts through the Sun-Earth plane, which means it's an ascending node. Super important, and actually it is approaching that ascending node over the next few years. Gong Gong takes 551 years, I guess, to one's circle around the sun, so it's really very much out there in that sense, also moving very slow. And it is pretty much farthest away in this section of the zodiac, so for the whole rest of this century, Gong Gong will be in the sign of Pisces, which again shows that yes, this is a big process which just has been started around 2007 of coming to clarity with many things. We have been literally banging our heads. Why do I not understand? Why do I not see this? This doesn't make sense. This is not really what it really is. Maybe we have been told something which is not really true. Anyway, also the Black Moon here is important, aside from this, because the Black Moon is in the discovery degree of Gong Gong. In my next recording I will look a bit deeper into this too. And this is actually then in April when Gong Gong will enter the hexagram. It is where its north node is, where it is rising through the ecliptic, which is definitely a super important area. 7 degrees and something is its north node, and that degree by chance is just here at the root of this chart. So this shows you that this will be a super important phase. And again, this will last from 2024 roughly to 2028, when Gong Gong will be activating, expressing itself through the hexagram 37, which is family. And family is the energy of bringing the tribe together, understanding that everyone has a different role to play in this symphony of working together, of attuning to one another. I guess this is really what will bring the big breakthrough, when humanity will grow together. I said that since a few years. This is really where we are working towards. That is why it is so important for many more people to really understand what's been going on this planet, and that we all start seeing that we have been played out against each other for no reason really. Just, well, maybe for one reason, to divert us of really seeing who is pulling the threads, and how we are pushed into believing things which are only detrimental and not really in our favor. Anyway, you get the picture. This is what is starting to get really activated. That whole awakening is making a huge step this year. Yes, it will still be a little bit more to go after 2024. But I said it many times, this will be the year where the big breakthrough will happen, and from there on it's more or less a given. By the end of this year, I'm 100% sure it will be the majority on this planet who truly sees the where we're at. And this chart definitely speaks for that. Also Juno here at the 10th house cusp, and you see this is just a couple days after the eclipse when this will happen. So that's why I said earlier already here that this will be the next big marker in time, the big next turning point. I think, yeah, I leave it with that for now in this recording. And thank you for joining and listening. It's super exciting times. We are in very challenging, very demanding, but super important. A little hint, and that is actually Oracle Girl Jacqueline Hobbs who is suggesting that, and it's so helpful to close your eyes at least for 20 minutes every day and look inward and tune into that field of loving presence which is all around us. This is the energy which the whole universe is made of. Nature, and your body is nature. Tune into your body. And it doesn't matter if your mind goes wild, as long as your intention is to tune into your body and to pull in that loving presence energy and fill yourself with it. That's the best you can do to help this awakening to accelerate beyond any expectation. This will really catch fire if we can generate that energy of love, of togetherness, of harmony from inside out, and this frequency will become so strong, it becomes irresistible, it will be so bright, it will blind out all the artificial. And eventually the artificial anyway. Yeah, all we have to do, I said it many times, all you have to do is really pull the plug. Period. Anyway, you get the picture. It is what it is. And thanks for joining, listening. And if you are supporting me, even more so, thank you. It is very wonderful to have you here. And have a wonderful day. Enjoy the ride.